ain't playing weak, no, I'm playing for keeps. Can't stop me, I'm a legend. I run with the crew that's making the moves. Get out of the way, we coming through. We got this, never stopping, and we won't lose. No, we can't lose. Yeah.
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV. It's time for the 6th round of the 19th season of the RaceKraft V8 Veterans Championship, Australian touring car racing for drivers over 40 years of age. We're at the Red Bull Ring for this round, which takes place on a very special day for Australia and New Zealand. It is, of course, Anzac Day, and we want to take the opportunity to honour everyone on this special day. They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget, this Anzac Day, 25th of April, 2024, of course, honouring those who fought and are still fighting for Australia and New Zealand across the globe. Here on SimSpeed TV, live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch and Kick, it's me, Reese Gardner. Dan Yeaman is alongside me in the commentary box, and Jay Kennedy is handling production behind the scenes tonight. Well, Dan, we can get into the racing action here tonight in V8 Vets at a track that has quickly become one of my favorites for V8 racing on the iRacing service. The Red Bull Ring is a pretty simple track from the air, but it has these little subtle issues that the drivers have to work around. And one thing's for sure, there's plenty of overtaking opportunities around here.
Yeah, certainly is. If I'm coming through it all, that is, Reese. Unfortunately, tonight for me has been a, technical nightmare and then some as well. I believe we're on the track map right now. In fact, things are so bad, I'm not even sure what I'm looking at, to be honest. Hopefully, my voice comes through well enough here. But
it does.
Certainly here in the Styrian Hills for the Red Bull Ring, and indeed now in this second half of this 19th season of the RaceKraft Veterans, the RaceKraft V8 Veterans Championship. Certainly going to be an interesting one here with, lots of straights, lots of high speed, but also those critical braking zones here tonight to worry about as well.
Absolutely. Niki Lauda curve, of course, turn 1 will be interesting to see the standing start from our way on through. Then down to turn 3 at the hairpin. Turn 4, obviously, another great overtaking opportunity where drivers can hold it around the outside if they dare. Turn 6, 7, and 8 will be one of the places where drivers are picking up a lot of off-tracks, as well as at turns 9 and 10, the final 2 corners. You can run quite far beyond the limits of the racetrack before you get an off-track, but it's difficult to ride that fine line. Certainly going to be a difficult race here. We're going to be going racing for 47 laps here tonight, so quite a big distance to go on here. We got to remember that the drivers will be starting on only 50 litres of fuel tank capacity, so we're going to be seeing those first pit stops very quickly.
Yeah, that we are at most about 15 laps on the starting fuel tonight, Reese, before they will have to come in. And even then, 15 will require some fuel saving compared to the numbers I was able to find this afternoon in preparation for tonight. So we might even see cars in on lap 14 just to be sure. Maybe people undercut to lap 13 even as well to consider that. Fuel tank range, the full tank range was more in the mid-20s, obviously, given that we got over twice the amount of fuel. It's actually, sorry, it'd be over 30 laps. I think it was between 31 and 33 laps to a full tank of fuel here tonight. So good window once we clear that opening pit stop and a good range for that opening pit stop as well. So we should see drivers with quite a few options as to how they want to tackle this race.
Yeah, plenty of options indeed. Well, we will see which ones the drivers go for, because there's obviously all opportunity for an early safety car, which would certainly tend to put a lot of drivers on that early stop strategy. We'll just have to wait and see, really. It's certainly been an interesting season of V8 veterans here, with plenty of drivers fighting for the top spots. There has been one driver who's risen above it all, though, and that is Scott Gamble, currently leading the championship by 55 points over Chris Funky Miller. Ken Latta, meanwhile, was 4th in the championship coming into last round, but has overtaken Dan Hall for that coveted 3rd spot coming into this 5th round of season 19. Stephen Varga, meanwhile, losing out a little bit in previous rounds. Michael Whiting and Dean Flavel doing very well in the middle of the top 10. Also noting Rob Crisdale has broken into the top 10 finally, but Matt Vanderkraan with a fantastic race a couple of weeks ago at Watkins Glen, elevating himself up into 9th spot, biggest mover in the entire field when it comes to the championship standings.
He does share that honour with Chad Lewis, who's moved himself up to 17th in the current order of things as well. Unfortunately for Blake Delaney, unfortunately my numbers or my mind eludes me as to whether he didn't race last time out for round number 5 of the season at Silverstone. I that might be a possibility. I don't remember seeing Blake amongst the drivers who started and ran that race. That might explain why he's the driver who's unfortunately dropped 13 spots to P16. Also important to note, of course, Reece, we are still yet to start talking about the drop rounds that will matter to the championship towards the back half of this season as well. 2 rounds will be taken out of the drivers' scores, and I'll hopefully be able to start talking about that next week once we hit round number 7.
Indeed. We're quite a long season ahead of us still. We are in our 6th round, but this series is as hard and fast as any V8 series is. We're looking forward to bringing you the rest of it here every Thursday on SimSpeed TV to the end. Well, we will go through the grid momentarily for this 6th round of the championship. Kenneth Latter for Fishy Motorsports, of course, running an Anzac tribute livery. Matt van der Kraan in the Angry Birds Racing 180 will line up alongside him. We have amazingly John Latham in 3rd spot. Latham incredibly quick this round. I haven't seen him this high up in a long time. Also running an Anzac tribute livery. Scott Gamble, our championship leader, running a camo job for his 9.5 Sim Sports number 543. Michael Stewart and Michael Whiting will also line up 5th and 6th. Troy Stonestreet, meanwhile, racing for WKMP Sim Sports alongside Blake Delaney for Fishy Motorsports, who's looking for a bit of redemption after that fall in the championship that you mentioned, Dan. And then we have Chris Miller, Championship P2, starting alongside Tim Nicol to round out the top 10.
Go over the page to P11 for this one, and it will be in the hands of Scotty Van Loon for the Q Ports Racing WKMP machine, sharing row 6 with Scott McCune in the Hypersonic Racing 77 there alongside Damien Cairns, also here tonight. And then we've got some notes from Damien to share with us later on. He's starting out at P13 tonight, Reece. Dan Hall alongside him in the ERT 462, another one of the camo paint jobs there. And just in behind will be the 3rd of our ERT cars. Pardon me, it'll be the 2nd, I believe, on the grid at this stage for ERT, in Chad Lewis. David Nash alongside him in 16th place for that 8th row of the grid. Dean Flavelle in P17 there for WKMP alongside David Kirby in 18th place for the Fishy Motorsports 307, with our top 20 going to be rounded out by Christian Smart and Paul Warwick for an all Fishy Motorsports row number 10 there.
Yep, Travis Hunt and Stephen Varga, meanwhile, lining up on the 11th row of the grid. We got Jason Fewens in the Banter Alliance 067 alongside Ricky Hyde, who's also gone for a military green livery here. Robbie Griffiths for Fishy Motorsports alongside Rick Sebra in the Frog Leap Juiced Racing 06. Paul Burns will start alongside Matt Scholes just behind. And then we have Chris Blanchard and Darren Goosey rounding out our top 30.
Head now towards our last couple of cars on the grid here. P31 going to be in the hands of Jamie McKnight there, the 027 for Fishy Motorsports. He's sharing that row with Damon Fisher in the Quantum Peckies Racing 505. And P33 going to be in the hands of Rob Crisdale with Chad Vigor alongside for the Angry Birds Racing 016 there. Brendan O'Brien, there's our 3rd ERT camo machine, starting out at P35 tonight, sharing row 18 with Michael Quain there for the Old Mate and Sons 57. Mike Taliancic not qualifying tonight, and looks like he might be our last driver there on the grid. No, pardon me, telling me, yeah, Mark Poynton there, P40 on the grid officially. Will be the next car in this race, along with then in behind Scott McKay. That will be our next car there, and I believe, yep, that will round it out, as we've got a couple of drivers from outside of Split 1 who joined the server earlier on, perhaps inadvertently, and our race control team who have actually switched over cars from Mercedes AMG GT3 to the BMW M4 GT4 there as well, Reece. So a little extra change to note as they are now getting onto the grid and we get ready to go racing. Nice, calm, and very clear conditions here in the Veterans. Actually, one of the things they do that's a little different to most other leagues. Static weather is in use tonight, as actually is in use full stop. So pretty pleasant conditions out there to race for this one here, Reece. So tyre wear, well, certainly will be a thing as it always is in these cars, but maybe just a little bit less of a factor than, say, what we might be used to in other leagues that we us here at SimSpeed.
Indeed, and especially around a track like the Red Bull Ring where, there aren't really that many fast corners. I mean, there are the last 4 or 5 turns that put the tyres through the ringer, but the rest of the corners around here don't actually put much load through the tyres. They're slow hairpins or slow flicks to the right. We'll have to wait and see how long the tyres end up lasting, especially on a nice smooth Formula 1 circuit in these very cool conditions, just in the morning in sim time. All right, last few seconds on the grid timer and we can get things going here. It is Ken Latta versus Matt van der Kraan on the front row of the grid in their Mustangs. 269 versus 180. Who's going to get the best run down to turn 1? Round 6 of V8 Veterans Season 19 is go, and it's a beautiful, consistent start from our top 4. Losing out ever so slightly is the Mustang of Michael Stewart. Almost, oh yep, he's going to get turned around by Troy Stone Street coming into turn 1, going off into the runoff area. There's some drama in the midfield, also off track, the ERT machine of Chad Lewis. Other than that, seems like the only other car to go off track was Rob Crisdale. Mark Poynton starting from the pits, and Michael Stewart will rejoin the race. But down at turn 3, a change for second spot. John Latham getting up the inside of Matt van der Kraan as it's all on here through the midfield. It's a parking lot down there.
I do believe I saw a Frog League Juice car literally parked on the apexes. Van der Kraan trying to challenge on the outside of Latham there, but can't make it work here. Turn 4 of Scott Gamble now to his inside as we approach the run up towards turns 5, now 6. Is in a section now with the double left-handers. Is Ladder doing a nice job there, actually getting out in front as we build the speed, as we build in through this middle sector here, and then head back towards the start finish line on this opening lap. Single file here in front of the field race. Going to allow the cars to settle in and try and find a rhythm.
Indeed we shall. This is going to be a very interesting race, and it is by no means over. Coming to the end of the first of 47 laps here. Through the final corner, our championship leader Scott Gamble holding on to 4th spot, trying to chase down van der Kraan and Latham. Kenneth Latta has already built the lead up to 1.5 seconds at the front of the field. He's absolutely going for it early on, but now we're in the rhythm of the race. We can get ourselves into the rhythm of trying to make moves. We'll see if Gamble decides to pull one here as he is almost rounding up Matt van der Kraan. A little bit of a lock-up from John Latham, who goes wide as the move is made for Gamble. Gets up the inside of van der Kraan. It looks like he's just gotten better traction by only the smallest of margins out of turn 3. Latham, meanwhile, falling behind Blake Delaney. Still in the top 5, though.
Indeed, as we watch down, watch these guys here fighting over second as Gamble looks to start making his way clear, and Michael Whining going to be the one to get up the inside now of Matt van der Kraan and all of the chaos there on lap number 2. But it looks like they'll sort that one out and get back to single file racing here. And further on back, it's 2x2. Further on back, we've got ourselves, I think it's Dean Lavelle. Yes, it is. Sitting in P16, which means he's got alongside him David Kirby trying to challenge on the outside here of turn 7 into 8. But they get back in single file as then Kirby on the gearbox off Lavelle on board here with Paul Warwick, looking at the back of these two here as they come into the last 2 corners. And now Paul going to possibly, just prop up on the outside of Kirby for a second, but can't really afford to do much about it. He's got Travis Hunt right in behind here as at the end of lap 2. Compulsory pit window is now open, Reese, given we've had no safety cars, but it looks like everyone, of course, it's not often we see the early stop strategy utilised amongst these drivers, so they're going to stay out for the time being here as we go to the start of lap 3.
Yeah, indeed we will. Nice close fighting here in the mid-pack. Bit of a poor exit for Chad Vigor, meanwhile, back in the field. It looks like Michael Quain is going to be able to jump up into the top 30 here. And I just wanted to highlight Michael Quain's livery here. See if Chad Vigor will give us the space here to have a proper look at it. Quain with a little bit of oversteer on the exit, but that livery's actually paying tribute to one of his family members, which I think is a really lovely gesture right there. So plenty of lovely gestures on the liveries throughout this field. It's a minority of liveries that don't have a red poppy on them or some tribute to the troops. It's awesome to see here in the V8 Veterans Series. You see it on all cars that are in our top 5 at the very least.
Yeah, indeed. We actually have a couple of veterans. I don't think I've seen. We have had a lot of people, of course, sharing their story. Well, there's been a lot of people sharing their stories in the V8 Veterans Discord this week. Scott Gamble was a former veteran, former serviceman. Damien Canty, also a former serviceman, actually shared some information about his time in the armed forces with the Royal Australian Air Force from 1995 to 2007, working primarily as an aircraft technician. Was what he identified as his job position. So worked with a 76 Squadron and 77 Squadron, along with things like forward air control and the Roulette's aerobatic team, apparently. So some fantastic little history and background information there on Damien, which is great to have. Scott Gamble now still under pressure, though, from Michael Whiting, who, after getting his first podium in this season last week out at Silverstone, now looking hungry for a second podium and to go one better than P3 as he looks to the inside for a moment there at turn 4. Reece will have to get back in line, though, as we hit the corner.
Yeah, a problem on the other side of the circuit, meanwhile, for Rick Seabra. The safety car has been called. Seabra is wedged in the pit entry wall there at the last couple of corners, and so is called in to race control to request a tow, and so the safety car will be brought out to neutralize the field. I noticed the incident happening on the timing before, but I didn't call it out. I was just waiting to see what happened. Looks like, unfortunately, Rick Seabra was bumped by Paul Burns. I believe Seabra was trying to go for the pit lane, but Burns might have been caught out by it. Well, no surprise to see lane here. This is the incident then. Seabra slow on the exit of turn 9, and yeah, you can see he was trying to go for the pit lane there, but Paul Burns was just continuing on at racing speed, and once Seabra was wedged in the Armco, looks like a part of the car phased through it, and unfortunately wasn't able to extricate himself.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and lo and behold, safety
Literally
car is
everyone is in the pit lane.
Yeah, barring one or two. Mark Poynton, I think he is still trying to actually catch up. So he'll actually have either he'll stay out. No, actually, yeah, pit lane start for him. That's what that time there is. But I think for Poynton, he's actually still playing catch up with the field as they come out of the pits now. Who's gotten away first there? As Paul Burns is the only car that's chosen not to pit. And it will be Scott Gamble actually who's going to come out. So I believe under fueling it there. So that's actually going to be interesting to watch here because Scott Gamble usually ones that sort of go middle of the road on fuel. In that case, I believe he was middle of the road when we compare our top 3. Rob Crisdale has also stayed out, so he'll try and pick a couple of spots off. Gets to P7 there, I believe. No apologies, he's done a shorter stop, but I could have sworn he was... I'm being told he came in at the end of lap 2, so the one driver, it seems, to come in under green flag conditions, so a shorter stop for him. Gets himself cycled up the order, but he will pay that back, of course, later on in the race.
Yeah, he will. It's a very interesting strategy from Rob Crisdale, and you'd say in the short term, it's a very well-timed move. We'll have to wait and see again how it works out for him. So, also with a incredibly short pit stop, Michael Quain. He's managed to work his way up into 5th coming out of the pits. Good on you, Michael. That's a very quick stop there. Actually, looks like the quickest of the entire field at only 11.5 seconds.
It's an interesting gamble there from Michael Quain in that case. Barely covering the time he gets to put tyres on, so 20 litres and change would be the number there versus everyone else going in for 20 plus seconds. So see if he can now make some moves with a bit of a lighter car in the first couple laps, because he'll definitely need to try and jump some spots early to make the most of that. But fingers crossed in that case. Michael Quain here looking for a good result. He's definitely had a couple of rough weeks this season, to be fair. So I think he'll be hoping now putting himself up the pointy order of things. That'll work for him here, as he's also possibly our driver who's gained the most places. Unfortunately, Reese, I can't actually read the information on the overlays. It's apparently a white blob for me tonight.
Yeah, so he has gained 31 spots, has Michael Quain, and that is the most positions gained in the field at the present time. So we do have Paul Burns coming into the pit lane there. You just saw him flash across the background there. Burns staying out initially and deciding now is the time to come in. He'll let almost the entire field by, I'd imagine. Maybe in a way, it's a self-penalizing move for him taking out Rick Sebra and bringing out the safety car in the first place. But we'll have to wait and see where Burns exactly shuffles out, because the pace car speed here is pretty slow. As you can see, it's only round about 80 k's an hour, 75 on the way into turn 1 to be exact, which is speeds that these drivers are not quite used to going at around this place.
It's a very gentle stroll, yes, for the drivers here as they heading up towards now turns 2 and 3. I believe at this point we'd be expecting, and I'm waiting a confirmation, but I would expect at this point safety car to come in at the end of this lap and we'll get back racing. As we're on lap 8, I believe. Unfortunately, yeah, I'm probably relying
lap 6
on the pod feed. Oh, apologies, lap 6. Okay.
Yes. So, 6th lap of this race. Paul Burns is waiting for the pit exit to be declared open so that he can move himself out. At the moment, he's currently sitting in pit lane behind the iRacing controlled AI safety car, and pit exit has just been opened by race control. He can rejoin at the very back of the field with Rick Sebra and Sebra's Frogly Juice Racing teammate Mark Poynton. So, in the end here, safety car may very well be ending this lap, and Scott Gamble is the one in the box seat here. Championship leader, and has certainly been the one to outrace everybody else at many rounds this season. But he's got Kenneth Latter right behind him, looking to make some moves. And remember, Latter will have a bit more fuel on board. He can play around with his strategy a little bit more.
Yeah, this is going to be the interesting part of this race now. Most of these cars should be fairly well filled up. How far exactly they can go before they get their second stop done tonight, I have to wait and see who can pull it off the best.
So through turn 7, the safety car has pulled away from the field. This is turn 8 here. Flat out right-hander, but it basically constitutes the exit of 7. So you need to be careful not to run all the way across those curbs there. And Scott Gamble has decided to go already. Pace car in pit lane, and away Scott Gamble goes. Looks like Kenneth Latter has followed him. Unfortunately, Michael Whiting and Michael Quain were not quite on the mark there. They've lost time to the top two as the green flag flies, and we're back to racing in the V8 Veterans Championship, presented, of course, by RaceKraft Simulations. You would have seen their logos all over the safety car. Into turn 1, our leaders come. Scott Gamble immediately pressing the power button out of the first corner, and a nice orderly restart from everyone through the first turn. Remains to be seen how good of an exit many of these drivers will get from that first turn. It comes to a 4 right here. Here comes Michael Quain trying to get into third, and he will get it done over Michael Whiting, but how long will it take for Whiting to come back at Quain? Looks like he was able to get a slightly straighter exit.
I will admit, no, unfortunately, Riz, I've actually lost my production feed. I actually can't quite pick it up at the second, so I'm going to have to leave it with you to call it here for a little bit longer.
No
I'll
worries.
try and be back in with you as soon as I can.
He is going to come back, is Michael Whiting, but Quain keeping the inside on the way into turn 6. Usually, though, if you're on the outside, you can get a slightly better exit, and Michael Whiting will stay ahead for the time being. But here comes Matt Vanderkraan. Meanwhile, Vanderkraan, the man who started in second spot, bringing the Angry Birds number 180 right up to the rear of Michael Quain. fantastic to see so many drivers having their moment in the limelight in this series. Such intense racing here in V8 Vets. Look at the exit, meanwhile, from Van der Kraan. He's trying to maximize everywhere he possibly can. Scott Gamble still leading the way, but sets the quickest time of anyone on that lap, leading by a second from Ken Ladder, which means Ladder is in danger of losing the slipstream. Looking a bit further back at the 008 of Blake Delaney, he's chasing down Van der Kraan. This is a long train of cars, which basically constitutes the entire field at this point. No one's really breaking away from anyone else as Whiting puts a move up the inside of Quain. Actually, looks like Quain might have gone for the outside move at the hairpin there. Beautifully done, but once again, Whiting has a chance to fight back. Just needs to get on the brakes a little bit later, and he does. Quain will have to give him room on the inside of the hairpin here, and he's a bit too wide to maintain speed, so Quain's going to have to fall back once more. This is going to be frustrating for Michael Quain. He's got a much lighter car than everyone else. He can be more aggressive here in these opening few laps, but he hasn't been able to afford the chance to break himself away.
Yeah, indeed. We watched that fantastic little battle there. I'm hoping to see it continue on for a couple more laps, let alone corners. But now on the outside, Van der Kraan going to get the inside as we approach turn 9. And Delaney going to look for it as well. And you've got all those cars in behind. Crisdale, Warwick. Oh, no, contact us.
Oh,
it's going to be Delaney and Quain get together final turn. As they try and gather it up, Reese, and part there is going to be Mike Quain. Delaney actually bails, or got, basically only had the pit lane to go. That's sure going to be an unsafe entry to boot for Delaney. Is 57, and Michael Quain, I think, is actually going to get stuck there and wait for the entire field to practically roll past before he can reach one. Yet there he goes just now.
Yeah, such a shame for Michael Quain. He was doing so well, and unfortunately, it just looks like he got shuffled, really. I mean, he left room on the inside, but Delaney just got on the power too much and went straight into him. I'm wondering if race control's going to have a word about that. Well, remains to be seen. In any case, car 666, Funky Miller. Chris making his way up the field gradually. He's obviously got the drivers who had very short pit stops ahead of him, but could make up that time, as David Nash is looking for a position in the top 10 here. That's Troy Stone's streak that he's attempting to make a move on. The WKNP Commodore will keep the inside coming into turn 6 and shuffled a little bit wide there as David Nash. Scott McCune is going to make his way on through there in that bright green livery. Same goes for Matt Scholes as well. The teammates now together. David Nash is going to have a big battle ahead of him. He wants to try and keep himself up in this midfield spot. He's already up 3 positions from where he started, which is good, but could be a bit better considering the pace he had.
So there that we may have a replay coming in, but unfortunately I can't see it, Reese.
That's okay. I believe Jay is still working on it.
Live.
We'll have to keep our eyes peeled here. This is the replay of the incident between Michael Quain and Blake Delaney. And yeah, you can see that Quain still, I think, had the right to the corner on the outside there. Delaney just got on the power and the car understeered into Quain there.
It's unfortunate to say the least. We'll have to see what race control make of it in due course. And saying that, yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to go on board now. Dan Hall back on the live feed. Back in P16, the ERT 462. Looking at Scotty Van Loon up ahead there for the Q Ports and WKMP. He mentioned this nice long train of cars at the moment as they work their way through this infield section here. Turns 6, 7, then a little flick back to the right for turn 8. Then wind up for this end of the lap sequence. Now that we've got double-digit laps on the board. We'll look here, a few drivers further on down the field. That would be Ricky Hyde for the number 802, but team 801 Sim Racing. Work their way through here. He's looking to try and stay on the back of John Latham, as Latham is... now, have I missed something, Reese, for Latham? It's entirely possible I have, unfortunately, tonight. the 24 machine starting up towards the front, and he's now all the way back here in 20th place.
Yeah, it's a long stop for John Latham. In fact, he had almost the longest stop of anyone, 40 seconds in the box. So that tells me that he's gone for a complete full fuel tank right there, which means he's going to be able to stretch this middle stint as long as he possibly can. I have to wonder, though, will he still be required to do another stop after that next stop that he takes? That is the question. Latham will be a driver we'll be keeping our eyes on. Meanwhile, Stephen Varga in the 868 chasing down this group just outside the top 20. He's got Chad Lewis and Ricky Hyde up ahead of him, and Latham is the next car up the road from those two. So depending on how much these two battle, gotta wonder, will Varga be stymied in his run to try and catch up to the top 20?
Yeah, that's a good point to make there. Also, just noting there, you said about John Latham's pit stop time, Reese. 40 seconds on a pit stop is a full tank of fuel, but it's only a full tank of fuel if you're borderline empty when you start filling it. So to me, that says, unfortunately, something has gone horribly wrong on the pit entry and a possible pit entry penalty for John Latham, or something went wrong in the pit stop itself, and maybe a couple of stops have been told slow down for the 802 of Ricky Hyde as we come down the front straightaway here. So he will actually check up. A couple of cars in behind here. He's trying to clear it now on the exit of turn one. And it's cleared now, but that's going to allow a couple of cars through there. One of the QPR machines going past 868 Stephen Varga. Chad Lewis in behind us, 727. Pardon me as I try and keep tab of who's here. I think that's 999, which would be Christian Smart. Yes, it is indeed. And then you've got the next 4 cars to make this 8-car big old pack working here for 21st on and back.
Yeah, that was very awkward for Ricky Hyde, pulling it up on the exit of turn 1 there. Varga, of course, expecting to be able to put the power down and keep it down all the way to turn 3 as, oh dear, Michael Taliancic and Jason Fewens and Michael Taliancic. Oh, hello. That's one of the fishy cars that's gone wide. Christian Smart. It's a bit of drama that we just witnessed down there. It looks like Smart just ran deep into the hairpin and got on the power a bit too early, and so Fewens and Taliancic were able to take advantage there. We also saw Robert Griffiths in the 060 off the circuit there.
With a chaos here now all of a sudden on lap number 13, I think that says. I've been told that our first penalty from race control has come through, and it will be the 008 of Blake Delaney, who will be issued a drive-through penalty. So unfortunate, but not entirely unexpected there, Reese. As we check in with Jamie Knight, having one of his better races in a little while, up 22 spots to P9 at this stage, but he's got Troy Stone Street right in behind, let alone Scott McCune and others in that pack there.
Yeah, this is the battle for just inside the top 10. Behind McCune, we still have the 2 teammates of Matt Scholes and David Nash, who are fighting to work their way back into the top 10 after some dramas early on. Matt Scholes, meanwhile, he's one of the drivers that has had one of the biggest runs up through the field. Started in 28th and is now up into P number 12. So he's obviously very happy with how he's gone so far, but he does run a little wide there in turn 6. That's going to allow his teammate David Nash to move on through at turn 7. He's got to be careful to keep Damien Cairns behind, one of the many actual veterans who race in the V8 Veterans Championship. Cairns is going to have a look to the inside. Oh, potentially Matt Scholes got on the brakes a little bit earlier than Cairns was expecting there, but the move is blocked coming into the final couple of corners, and now Scholes can allow David Nash to get some breathing space and maybe mount an attack on McCune, Stone Street and McKnight.
Exciting little battle pack here, I think, as we watch them come through turn 1 once again here, with Dan Hall looking very racy on the back. Damien Cairns on this particular occasion here, races they then make the run up towards this first hairpin once again. Cairns middle of the road of sorts, but he does end up going towards the left side of the track, as up towards the hairpin we come. Hall to the inside. Does he get there under brakes? I have to leave it with you, actually. Not quite.
Yeah, just a little, but still side by side here between McCune and McKnight as they make their way down into the Roush corner. And McCune will get the power down nicely, straightens it up and cuts McKnight off at the exit. Beautifully done there for Scott McCune. That will now be 10th spot for the number 77. Meanwhile, we've been looking at all of this great battling going on in the midfield, but how about the fight for the lead? I did notice some laps ago that Latta was getting a bit closer to Gamble. The gap has extended back out to about a second, but it was as low as 7/10 at one point. So Gamble can't exactly afford to relax right now.
That's good to hear, because in the past couple of rounds, Scott has found something that the others haven't quite been able to match out there on track, as we see one of the Fishy Motorsports, which might be Blake Delaney perhaps in that case, slotting out behind our leading two, which unfortunately at this stage already a lap down. Going to need another safety car or being able to go off strategy to try and compensate there to make things work. So yeah, that's, I'll have to get Jay to confirm with me those deltas there on screen, what they are. But yeah, looks, so yeah, a little bit of time gain. Actually, the way that's laid out, that says a little bit of time gain back on lap 13, but then Gamble, we are pulling time back on laps 14 and 15 here. So yeah, a bit of back and forth. I'll be curious to see how that all plays out. So okay, nearly 3/10, then lost it again, and then Gamble just ahead, but not by much. Pardon me, laps 12 through 14 there.
Yeah, of course. Well, Blake Delaney, having recently come out of the pits there, is behind Kenneth Latta, but now a lap down on the rest of the field. Obviously not ideal for Mr. Delaney, but drive-through penalty for his contact with Michael Quain that brought out the safety car. Meanwhile, pit lane penalty for Paul Burns. Not too sure what that's... Oh, yeah, actually, I know what that's for. That's for his
running into Rick
contact
Seabra that brought out the safety car.
yeah, for Rick Seabra. My apologies. I got my incidents confused there. It was Burns running into Seabra that brought out the safety car, and then we had the incident with Blake Delaney and Michael Quain once we went green. My apologies, guys. Still getting my brain sorted after a very hectic Anzac day. So, this battle for 4th place is absolutely massive. Plenty of fast drivers involved in this fight. Van der Kraan still holding on to a position in the top 4. Rob Crisdale, remember, started outside the top 30 and now elevates himself up to 5th with a short pit stop. Keep an eye on Crisdale and Frog Leap Juice Racing Mustang. He's going to be one of the drivers that will find himself in the pit lane first.
Yeah, that will be one to watch. We're at the point now where you should be able to fill it up and make it home, but the bigger thing is then you're going to be filling the car up, which means you're going to be having a heavy car compared to the others around you, given that most people here probably, well, and so that with most people doing mid-20 seconds worth of fuel, they're putting on 50-odd litres back on that 4. They'll be burning fuel down. They'll have the range to go into the mid-20s, but actually won't be all that much different here. So we're looking at David Nash as he tries to hustle. That'll be Damien Knight. There it is through the last couple of corners. So there's battle now for 11th place on the road as Nash looking strong off the final turn there. Right up underneath the rear wing of McKnight here. Race towards turn 1. And we'll look for the inside to the move.
Oh, but it's covered by McKnight ever so briefly, but he goes wide in turn 1 anyway. And that allows David Nash right on through. Now McKnight's exit has been compromised. He could face an attack from Scholes and from Dan Hall as well for Evolution Racing Team, which we haven't really talked about much in this race yet. Scholes try around the outside here at the hairpin, and the outside is usually the place you want to be at that turn 3 hairpin. Got a bit of a flatter run around the outside, which allows you to put the power down a bit better. Car gets more unsettled on the inside, but it doesn't seem to be a problem for Jamie McKnight. He holds the inside coming into the next hairpin and will cover the position from Scholes. But here comes Dan Hall to take advantage. A little bit of overlap coming into turn 6.
Good bit of battling though at this stage. go back up to the fight for P4 here, Reese, as Chrysler continues to try and apply the pressure to Matt van der Kraan, but going to be a case of not quite close enough at this time to look out the back of the 180 machine through the these last couple of turns here. You can see them really being careful, really aggressively working all of the track limits. They'll have to be careful though if we do get into some really close racing, because if they go out to those iRacing limits here, Reese, they will be running afoul of the actual league's track limits rules, which follow the same interpretation as the Pro Invitational Series, in that you have to be within the white line. So even there, for example, for as many Scholes, I believe it is, even there, running into turn 1, he was borderline, probably actually outside the track limits there as he made his way into that first corner as he brushed over the white line. So that's one that drivers may have to be wary about as this race goes on, if the fighting continues. As Dan Hall to the inside this time at turn 3 as he tries to get there under brakes. It's going to force the door open. Can Scholes get the run? But he's up on that sausage curve. That might just hurt the run here to turn 4.
Yeah, just caught it. They're still going to be side by side, and it's side by side behind as well. Hall gets the inside line for the hairpin and will complete the move. Meanwhile, there's the run there between John Latham and Damien Cairns. Two drivers who are down positions, but John Latham down way more on where he qualified than Damien Cairns is, down 12 spots. Meanwhile, looking further back in the field, Ricky Hyde, he is all over the back of Chad Lewis for 23rd position. Stephen Varga is the car up ahead. Obviously, it's always a bit of a struggle to try and look at every single car in the field during a race, and we do our best here at SimSpeed TV, but with so many drivers involved in this series and so many great battles, you can only get so many in. Fortunately, we've been able to get this one in with Ricky Hyde getting the move done up the inside, or does he, is the question. Considering this is a replay, looks like that's a bit of a problem there for Hyde. Actually, turned in on a little bit there by Stephen Varga, or so that might be Ricky Hyde's interpretation of the incident. It allowed Chad Lewis right on through. So now Chad is looking to pass Varga coming into the third corner. Stephen Varga, of course, one of only 2 drivers in the field, the same, of course, being Ricky Hyde, that still occupy the position they started in. But for how much longer? Look at Hyde's run through the hairpin there. He absolutely took great advantage of the side-by-side between Varga and Lewis.
Yeah, he did. Looking very nice indeed as they work their way down to turn 4 once more. Got to watch out now because you've got Jason Fewens and Michael Stewart starting to range up on the back of them. So he's expand. The battle pack is a little bit of a slide there for Chad Lewis off the exit of turn 4 there. They work into this infield section once more and try and find a little something there. As then, loose for Varga through 6. Going to unsettle the car, but actually gets away a little bit from Lewis, it seems. But we'll see now as they work their way out towards the last couple of corners as to whether Lewis can make that back. But we'll head up the order a little bit more to David Kirby and Travis Hunt, fighting over last couple of spots inside the top 20. Also trying to chase down Dean Flavell directly ahead there in the 880 machine for WKMP SimSports. They get lap number 20 underway for them.
Yep, not far ahead of them. Scotty Van Loon, one of the members of the V8 Vets committee, and looking at lap times, it seems like Van Loon is in the best shape out of all of these drivers. He's just sticking in the slipstream of Damien Cairns and John Latham. Meanwhile, these guys behind are running maybe 0.2 slower per lap, or thereabouts. They are trying their hardest, though, to keep themselves in the fight. Meanwhile, pit stop back in the field. Mark Poynton brings it in, and it looks like Darren Goosey has also made his way into the pit lane as well. So it's a couple of drivers there having taken their second, I believe, scheduled pit stops. Poynton and Goosey brought it in on about lap 4, lap 5 or thereabouts when the safety car came out. So keep our eyes peeled on the battle inside the top 4. Rob Crisdale is right on the back now of Matt van der Kraan. And Michael Whiting has been steadily being caught by these guys. The man who currently occupies that final coveted spot on the podium has been losing pace. He ran 0.3 slower than the pack behind last lap.
That's interesting to note there, indeed. That's going to be one to watch out for, and hopefully something that isn't too much of going to be a concern for Whiting as this race goes on. Another stint to go in this race. He'll be a little worried if his pace drops off again like this and makes himself vulnerable to a fight later on in the show. As Jay McKnight's under pressure from Dan Hall into the hairpin we go at turn number 3, and it looks like Dan's going to get ahead and yet clear completely on the exit up the inside there. 027 of McKnight will now try and recontest in towards the hairpin at turn 4. You've got nose to tail as well, the next two cars in behind, which would be Matty Scholes and John Latham. But it will be Dan Hall who stays ahead on all the way through turn 4. But McKnight's going to get up alongside there towards turn 6, Reese. But again, Hall to the inside. Can he cut? He's got that one parked up nicely enough. And Jamie wanted to cross him over, but look, that's going to be a no, sir, you cannot today. At least not yet.
Yeah, looking at McKnight's car behaviour, he's struggling a bit with the rear end now. Seems like that car is dancing on a knife edge through the middle part of the circuit. Well, he'll be hoping that his pit stop is going to be coming up soon, considering that his pit stop was only 21 seconds compared to most drivers going along doing 30. I don't think we're too far away from seeing a pit stop for Jamie McKnight. But keep your eyes peeled as always. On board here with Matt Scholes, who currently occupies 14th position. He's been steadily losing time to McKnight and co ahead. And now John Latham looks to make the move. Look at the run that Latham has through the middle of turn 1. He's going to carry this momentum all the way down the straight. No surprise to see that Scholes is going to protect the inside coming into the turn 3 hairpin. But look at Damien Cairns here as well. Could he try to make it 3 wide? He's having a look, and he's going to try and gain here. But looks like Cairns has only ended up compromising himself, because now Van Loon's right on the back of him. Latham's still not able to get by Scholes coming down to turn 4.
Practically a dead heat off of the exit of turn 3, but there you go, Latham getting a nose ahead as that Scholes hatch just rolling in. They're both in very deep, and indeed too deep for John Latham. Finds the left side tyres in the gravel. That will allow Cairns through, and Scotty Van Loon might sniff a chance, but he'll stay back in line as you're on board there now with Cairns having just taken that spot away from the 24 of Latham. They are leaving each other basically nothing. Now, when it comes to leftover room, as we'll then look at it here from Van Loon's perspective here, as he tries to get the power down through this turn 7-8 section and make your way back towards the end of this lap once again here.
Yeah, John Latham slid all the way through the hairpin there at Roush down at turn 4. Just would have cooked his tyres, I think, a bit as well. Looks like he hasn't lost any of his pace, and certainly Damien Cairns is taking massive advantage here up the inside of Matt Scholes coming into turn 1. Gets the move done by the time they get to the apex. That was a lovely move, and unfortunately for Scholes, it's put him under attack from Latham once again. He's going to try and do the same thing he did on the last lap, or is he? He's trying to block Latham all the way through here, middle of the road. Careful not to run into the back of Cairns. There goes Latham past Scholes, and maybe past Cairns too if he nails the exit here. Nice and smooth over the curb, avoids the anti-cut curb, the bright yellow hump on the exit of the corner. Now, can he keep the car stable through Roush this time? Late on the brakes, delay turning just a little bit, keep it calm around the outside, don't run into the gravel trap. He's going to maintain the side-by-side, but a shorter route around the sweeper for Damien Cairns means he's still ahead on the way into turn 6. Latham goes for it at turn 6, and he's actually managed to pull it up. Lovely way of taking the position.
Oh, that is sublime there from John Latham, some of his best work that we've been able to see. Unfortunately, it's been a chance of not being able to see a lot of that this season there. And indeed, round the outside, the long way for several corners before it becomes the inside finally. That was certainly a case of patience paying off for him indeed. Back up the front we go to the fight for P3. That pack behind starting to spread out a bit, Reese, but Van der Kran going to stay right with Michael Whiting, but we'll check in with that later because Tim Nicol, Troy Stonestreet, and that'll be Scott McEwen all fighting for the same piece of road here off of turn 1 as they make the run up the hill here on lap 24. It will be Stone Street, better drive off of the Nicky Lauda turn there to make the run up the hill. And McCune on the racing line trying to set himself up for a good drive off here as they then try and cross each other over, get the power down and exit at turn 3 and head back down the hill once again.
This is a great battle, isn't it? An absolutely fantastic fight. And with all of the slicing and dicing that they're doing, it's actually bringing in Hall, Nash and McKnight behind. This is almost a 6-car battle now for 9th place, which is exactly what we love to see. Red Bull Ring always providing fantastic racing in these cars. It's just, like I said before, so much of a knife edge that these cars dance on through the fast corners, and so much of an opportunity to lock the brakes into a hairpin or spin up the rears out of a hairpin. You know, anywhere around this circuit, you have to be on your A game. And look at this. Beautiful battling with Michael Taliancic, Dave Kirby and Travis Hunt. Taliancic moves onto the racing line and Travis Hunt's going to try here on Dave Kirby. No, he's going to back out of it ever so slightly. Yeah, just lifts off. Probably a wise decision. As we've seen before, it's very difficult to make moves into those last 2 turns.
Have to be ultra committed to make something work there, and a lot of respect also given by the driver you're trying to overtake as well. I think is one of the big things there. So at this stage of the race, I think everyone's going to play a little bit more calm about things, which will be hopefully what I have to see at this point in time, because we are barely at, or only just at the halfway mark, as McCune going to be up the inside of Tim Nicol, who's got a massive wiggle there on the exit. Dan Hall will say, thank you very much, I'll take a free spot down to turn 4 here, as Nicol, though, will get back in behind. There's 462. Can he get something down to turn 4? He's certainly, for a half a moment, wanted it perhaps, but no, he will settle in there as they power out.
News from Race Control, pit lane penalty for Scott McKay. Not too sure what the incident was that warranted that, but regardless, if you're a fan or follower of Scott McKay, that's a little bit of disappointment that you're unfortunately saddled with for the next couple of laps. McKay is currently running down in 31st position, and I mean that is a lot better than it was when he started, but yeah, real shame for the driver of the number 33 Holden Commodore, who has one of the best Anzac liveries I've seen. I think incorporates the red poppy and the Australian flag very nicely, and pretty good colour scheme too. Regardless, we'll keep ourselves trained on the fights here, as Travis Hunt will also make his way into the lane. I believe that's for second scheduled stop right there. Following along with, here we are, replay coming here. So this is what brought out the penalty for McKay. Oh, just a little bit too deep. And that created actually quite a big pile up. Who else was involved in that?
Well, I can see it's one of the Vigors, I think 016, which, if I remember correctly, is Chad or Rick. I'm going to actually now pass it on. Unfortunately, I can't. It's been a while since I've actually remembered those numbers there. I think I saw Mark Poynton, unfortunately, tripped up in that one there as well. And I'm going to have to guess and say that it was,
in any case,
Chad Vigor. Chad Vigor. There you go. That's all. And it was the 188, I think it was the other car. So 186, which will be Darren Goosey, if I remember correctly. So unfortunately, focusing here on Poynton and Chad Vigor, and just absolutely cleaned up Reese as a result of Goosey's car being
nothing they could do. That's such a shame for those guys. You know, it always sucks when, you know, you're racing your hardest and you're doing your best, and then all of a sudden an incident happens behind you and a car is sent careening right into you at the apex. There's just no time to react. There's nothing you can do. Feelings go out to all the drivers involved in that incident. Meanwhile, fight's still on for third spot here. Michael Whiting is just holding on, but Matt Vanderkraan and everyone behind is steadily rounding him up. Whiting's last lap was a 1:30.526. 1 minute 30.59 for Matt van der Kraan. So the pace has somewhat equalised between these two, but I still get the feeling that Whiting is the one that's burnt through his tyres a little bit more. He's just not able to maintain the pace that he was before. And remember, Whiting is up 3 spots from where he started. He started in 6th. Van der Kraan started in 2nd. So, started in, second for Matt van der Kraan. So the ultimate pace that van der Kraan is capable of already a little bit higher than Whiting's.
Looking good at this stage of the race. We'll have to wait and see, though, as to how that plays out, because we've still got 20 laps left in this one here. At least our leading drivers are just starting that one out. As there we go, Chrisdale finally out of fuel. It's actually done an impressive job in terms of fuel mileage to have come in early in the race and be able to get all the way here to lap 26, end of 26, start of 27. So actually, sorry, it'd be 27, 28, wouldn't it? No,
yep.
I'm going to do my maths.
Yep, that's correct.
Extra zeros always throw numbers for an absolute. I'm trying to think about them. But we'll worry about that another time as we look back up to Whiting and van der Kraan as they make their way up towards turn number 3 here, race.
Yeah, Chrisdale made it 25 laps to that tank. Now, the question is whether or not Whiting and van der Kraan are going to respond to this, because the longer they stay out, the more of a tyre undercut Chrisdale may have on them. Remember, though, that Chrisdale's pit stop will likely be longer than theirs, because these guys decided to take their slightly longer stop right away. They'll probably benefit in flat-out time in the pits on this next cycle. But when it comes to track position and outright pace, straight out of the box, maybe Chrisdale will have a slight advantage. Let's keep an eye on all of that, as Michael Stewart has just emerged out of pit lane there, and the leaders will stay out. Chris Blanchard also came into the lane. Chrisdale has emerged down in 25th place, a 28-second pit stop for Chrisdale, 46 seconds from pit entry to pit exit.
Right, we should watch there.
Here comes Stone Street.
Coming. Yeah, because of course there's pit entry here, one to watch out for. So just Stone Street there from that pack to stop. Then David Nash in behind will come in. It's Scotty Van Loon, I presume, also perhaps coming in amongst all this, but Matty Scholes definitely. There's no Van Loon staying up. Scholes, okay, there you go, a couple of the fishy cars amongst that there in. As yep, our pit lane now lining up with activity here on the end of lap 28. John Latham amongst the pack, I'm being told there. As actually out on track, there's 2 of our fishy cars that have stayed out. Will that be Ladder and no, Chris? Sorry, it's Chris Miller and Paul Warwick. Apologies there.
Yeah, okay, so Miller and Warwick all pitted 24 laps ago, and actually that is the case for literally everyone in the top 18 right now, who only have 1 pit stop to their name. So I would expect them to come in the next couple of laps too. There's Chrisdale, and he has emerged behind John Latham and David Nash. Now, Latham and Nash had pit stops that were somewhere around 11-12 seconds shorter than Chrisdale's. This is their short fill. It'll be interesting to see how they play this out from here.
That's interesting to note there. And decent amount of fuel in at their first stops is indeed Matt van der Kraan going to peel off the back of Michael Whiting and get his second stop done here at the end of lap 29. But Whiting, Miller, Warwick, your top 2 will carry on. So will Dan Hall and Tim Nicol, but Scotty McCune will also drop into the pit lane here. So drivers breaking this second, well, basically, this is roughly what the even stint strategy would have called for. Reese coming in around here at lap 30 and leaves you with this 18 lap stint to finish the race off here tonight.
Yeah, this race has flown by, rapidly starting to approach the end here. Scott McKay, meanwhile, having taken his penalty, I believe. Yeah, he has. He'll have to pit once more. Down with Jamie McKnight right now. McKnight just emerging from the pits 3 laps ago with a 25-second stop. Christian Smart also comes into the pit lane, falls outside of the top 20. We're still waiting on pit stops from our lead pack there. That's a little bit of a bump there between McKnight and McKay. So Scott's going to have to fall in behind just for the time being.
I actually don't think there was a bump there, Reece. From what I saw for the moment, it was just a self-inflicted error there from McKay.
Right.
Got the rears locked up on entry to turn one before Jamie could get to him, and just unfortunately sailed a little wide. Had to pull it up to keep it roughly within track limits. So don't think there was any issues there for Jamie. He's able to get on through of his own volition, and they carry on.
Yep, through they go into Roush. We'll get a replay here of the incident. Oh, yeah, you see just there at the bottom of the screen, the rear end just went for McKay. Meanwhile, into the pits comes Michael Whiting, Chris Miller, and Paul Warwick. Whiting and Miller, two drivers who are in the midst of that top 10 up to top 3 battle, as Brenton O'Brien and Matt Vanderkraan side by side on the way down into turn 1, and Vanderkraan, fresh out of the pits, is going to get it done. O'Brien still only on a single pit stop. He's been out there for 26 laps, and you gotta wonder when these top group drivers are going to come in, because their pace is absolutely nowhere right now. The tyres are just too old.
I guess the thing is, they had a couple of seconds advantage after building that margin in that middle stint. But as you said, if they're losing time hand over fist, that is the big worry. Are going to be if there's any risk of an undercut from someone like Vanderkraan or Whiting, as well as actually critically, where is Vanderkraan? Vanderkraan P11. Is he best of those two? In fact, he's done very nicely. He's undercut Whiting nicely, who's sitting back in 13th along with Miller and McCune. Of course, fuel numbers might have also been part of the equation we have to unravel and all this here. But if Matt Vanderkraan is able to put in laps comparable or better than, say, our top 2, he'll still have a bit of margin probably to cut back down, but certainly will be closer than he was.
Yes, Dan Hall and Tim Nicol making their way in, by the way. I'm looking at the gaps here. Vanderkraan is currently 48.5 seconds behind our leader, Scott Gamble, and that gap is ever shortening. Now, a pit stop, at least, judging by Gamble's last pit stop times, total lane time 44.5 seconds, and it looks like you lose somewhere around about 35 to 40 seconds on a pit stop cycle, depending on how much fuel you put in. So I get the feeling Vanderkraan is going to, at the very least, be gunning for the lead by the time Gamble and company come in.
I do want to watch out for that, because I tried to run some numbers on how much time you lose. Actually, we'll bring it up here on screen. So now, if it's okay, so Gamble's in now, and actually this far back he should be safe, and indeed Ken let off. The numbers I roughly ran is subtracting that whatever time you stop for, you lose about 23. You should apparently lose about 23, 24 seconds coming into the pits. Then you add on your stop time here. So depending on how long Gamble's stop here, but it would basically, by that number there, with if Vanderkraan's sitting at 45 odd seconds, Gamble here would have to be in the pits for about 20 odd seconds to even remotely be under threat. And that's if my pit delta, the transit delta, is remotely on target. You can see Gamble in for 22.5 seconds on fuel. Ladder though, 16 seconds on fuel will jump Gamble.
Here we go.
And where is Vanderkraan in all of this? Way back down the road.
Yeah, all right. So my calculations were way off there. My sincere apologies. Brain calc seemed to have a bit of a bug in it. Gamble, meanwhile, up the inside of Dave Kirby. Kirby, one of the few drivers who has stayed out. I mean, God, they're on 28 laps now completed on that single set of tyres. Remember, of course, that there are a couple of laps under safety car to deal with, as that's a big lockup for Dave Kirby. That tells the story, doesn't it, of just how much tyre performance is compromised when you stay out for that long. Oh, this is a little awkward here. Dean Flavell right in the midst of this pack. This is for just inside the top 20. Chad Lewis, Travis Hunt, Flavell, and Damien Cairns as well. Flavell side by side with Travis Hunt. He's going to try and get the move done here. he does it. This is a battle of drivers on very differing strategies. Chad Lewis has been out there for 6 laps since his pit stop. Travis Hunt currently on the 8th lap. Dean Flavell, meanwhile, has just come out of the pits. Still waiting for those tyres to really come up to temperature. Finally, in comes Michael Taliancic, Dave Kirby, Stephen Varga, and Jason Fewens. That will leave Brenton O'Brien and Scotty Van Loon, the only drivers yet to take their second pit stop.
And how long? Nope, mate, that Van Loon's going to roll out right now and not get in the way of Scott Gamble. So nice heads-up driving there from Scotty, though certainly he wasn't under any need to do that. But I guess that's one of the gentlemanly aspects that the drivers here at the Bay Veterans like to espouse. Is here David Nash pressuring Paul Warwick for 13th spot at the moment as they work up towards turn 3. That's almost a squeeze through this kink at turn 2, but they get through perfectly okay. And around the outside of turn 3 again, Nash get the power down. No, Warwick shuts the door. Very nice one. Not very aggressive, but fairly aggressive there.
Yeah, indeed. He's still going to have to defend. It looks like just on the brakes a little bit later, he'll be able to stay ahead coming into Roush. So, through that pit cycle, Ken Latta now 3 seconds ahead of Scott Gamble. Still waiting on those pit stops from Van Loon and O'Brien. For the time being, we'll keep an eye on Troy Stone Street as he's looking back at Tim Nicol and John Latham. It's been such an adventure for John Latham this race. Still not entirely sure what happened to him in his first pit stop there, because remember it was a 40.7 second stop time. We don't usually see that unless there's been some huge issue in the cars or the fuel tank's been empty. So let's see what John Latham can do to try and recover from here.
Thing on the card's going to be find a way past these two directly in front of him here in Tim Nicol and Troy Stone Street. Side by side, so he's going to pick Nicol. Can he perhaps maybe push the 23 through, at least clear Stone Street? And he can. Looks like by the time we get to turn 2, the question is, where does he go now? Because if he moves over too much, maybe Nicol will over defend. Going to be on the inside here for hairpin at turn 3, and Nicol tries to work outside to block off Stone Street. They tag Reese, but looks like they're going to keep on going. Just the door open now for Latham down towards turn 4.
Oh, good recovery from Tim Nicol there. That could have been disastrous, but Latham up the inside of Stone Street now, and look who it's brought in. The fight between Warwick, Nash, and Crisdale. Rob Crisdale, one of the drivers who went for a very alternate strategy here. Now right on the back of this fight for the last position in the top 10. Crisdale is up 18 places from where he started. Can he make it a few extra and nab a top 10 finish out of this is the big question. Across the front of Tim Nicol goes Troy Stone Street as John Latham is saying, run away from this battle. Let's see if they can get through the final couple of corners without incident here, because Nicol still trying to keep the inside here over Troy Stone Street. If you're on the outside through the final corner, you're going to have to yield to at least one other car behind. That's exactly what Paul Warwick is doing. Stone Street trying to move to block the advance of David Nash, but the 911 is going to make his way through.
Aggressive driving there now all of a sudden with what? 12 to go still? And apparently that decided to take off the stoppers and put it all on the line here now. As Troy Stone Street feeling apparently the brunt of this entire pack, saying, we want in, out of the way please, or you might end up getting moved, not of your own volition there. So that finally simmers down for now at least. The question is, can any of them catch John Latham, who's been given that reprieve? Getting through to 10th, and now had that reprieve from all the fighting in behind there through those last couple of corners there on that previous lap. Meanwhile, the Matt Vanderkraan, Michael Whiting battle still yet to be resolved. Reese has Whiting ranging up on the back of the 180 machine here once again.
Yeah, have a look at Whiting's gaps there. He's taken 2/10 out of Matt Vanderkraan every single lap in the last 3 laps. So The pace is certainly with Mr. Whiting, but can Mr. van der Kraan keep the pace up and put on a defense? These two are all alone on track at the moment, and that's the worst time for that kind of incident to happen. Getting over the anti-cut curb at the exit of turn 1, and this will probably be the easiest line into this battle that Whiting could have hoped for. Still has to make his way past, though, and when you get to the corner, it becomes an entirely different beast. Can Whiting get on the power better than van der Kraan? He certainly can. But now, we'll see if van der Kraan can fight back. These guys only have a difference of 1 lap in terms of tyre life. Van der Kraan on the slightly older tyres. It looks like Whiting has been able to get the better exit round the outside here. He's going to cover it into turn 6 and get the move done.
Got a couple of extra corners there, but outside at turn 3, still working for a couple of drivers here tonight. Just had to get it done by the time you get through to turn 6 as they then work their way out of there. It might even give Chris Miller a chance to look at these guys and hook himself into the action. As further on back, Troy Stonestreet had gone to the pit lane again. Now, unfortunately, I hadn't kept up with whether he'd stopped twice for us already or if he had to come pits. As Scotty Van Loon will be our last car towards the front of the, well, in the top 3. There's still Brenton O'Brien, who's unfortunately, despite his excellent looking positions, gained value out of position, and I believe, yep, he will now join Mr. Van Loon. So a 10-lap sprint for those two guys coming here at the end of the race when it comes to their tyres. The Van Loon, though, is still putting out a lot of fuel for a 10-lap run. 16 seconds worth of fuel. As O'Brien will come in from further on back and see where they cycle out.
Yeah, Van Loon's going to come out in 16th, now 17th position, passed by Travis Hunt and Dave Kirby. Meanwhile, Scott Gamble catching back up to Kenneth Latter. It does seem that the pace in the 269 is starting to fall off, and I think Latter actually had a pretty big incident on lap 35, so I would get the feeling that he's starting to feel the pressure. So, Van Loon coming out in 17th place, O'Brien back in 29th spot. But considering that he's got, you know, the likes of Blanchard, Hyde, Stonestreet and Fewens ahead, I think O'Brien stands a good chance of getting back into the top 25 by the end here. Look at how close these guys are battling.
Yeah, you've got all of this to worry about up the road, Reese. Varga, McKnight, and then the third car. That Scholes, oh no, the tag's going to send the 805 into the gravel. Thankfully not around there, Reese, so you'll be able to rejoin the circuit relatively promptly, but it's going to cause there go Fewens have to swing around, and next to WK&P cars to get a good head of steam there. It's Troy Stonestreet, that's where he's come out after that additional stop, and that's unfortunate there. That was a battle pack worth watching. But yeah, look at all these cars here potentially in line for being snatched up. So actually a little puff of smoke there into turn 6 to start things off perhaps. And then McKnight, yeah, maybe looking to line up in behind Scholes, and Scholes not fully out of position there. Stonestreet's be able to mug him at turn 1 whilst we've been on replay, it seems.
Yeah, it looks like it. Keeping our eyes peeled on that battle for 16th place. Travis Hunt now dealing with Scotty Van Loon just behind, remember, who's fresh out of the pits. Side by side between Hunt and Kirby, and Van Loon is right there to take advantage. He'll put the power down on the exit, but a little more speed carried by the number 32. And David Kirby in the 307 will keep himself in line as well. This is the exact situation I think that Van Loon didn't want, you know. If you're coming out of the pits so late, you want to come out in clear air. You can take advantage of your tyre advantage, which, you know, is words, redundant repeating. But in any case, he's come out in traffic, so he's not quite able to take advantage of those lovely fresh tyres. Meanwhile, Dan Hall and Scott McCune, this is one of the closest fights in the top 10, only 2/10 between them. Both of them just riding that anti-cut speed bump on the exit of turn 1. Who out of these two is going to get the bread?
Up towards turn 3, the answer is going to maybe be Dan Hall for now, as McCune will try and line something up, but doesn't quite get there on this occasion just now. But certainly good drive, it seems, and good slipstream, of course, able as we check back in further down the field with Kirby, Hunt, Van Loon. I believe that's Cairns. Yep, Cairns in there, along with Flavel. Apologies for saying I'm having a real hard time here, unfortunately. I'm having to deal with a very low quality production feed just so I can even see it tonight. So it's not on Jay, that's on me. And it's making reading everything a little interesting here tonight as we check back in at the front of the field in the meantime for something that has been slowly brewing, Reese. That's not going to help Ken Latter one bit.
Yeah, the brew is becoming a boil now. Ken Latter lost 0.3 of a second to Scott Gamble on the last lap, and it seems like his rear end is not playing nice. We could have a photo finish here if this kind of pace is kept up. Kenneth Latter, I mean, you know, he was so close to taking the championship last season. He fought all season long with Michael Taliancic and had actually done well enough to be champion. But minute difference of starting your victory burnouts before iRacing ended session scoring cost him that. This is a much smaller mistake than that, but could still end up costing him this race. Let's see if he can hold on versus the might of our championship leader, Scott Gamble, who's edging ever closer. Gap is now down to 1.3 seconds for the lead of the race, and we're coming up to 6 laps to go in the Anzac Day 200.
Oh man, Scott Gamble has only lost one race this season as well, and it was on post-race penalties, not actually at the line. Blake Delaney back into the pits. Unfortunately, 008 has been in a world of hurt. It seems not able to recover because with Ben Green, since there you go, has that half a second to the 1000th as Ken Latter tries to get a nice straight and steady exit off of turn 1 this time by. But he's going to have to pull out all the stops and find something that he might not even have left in those tyres if that little slug. He was already loose before he got to that exit, that anti-cut curb on the exit as well, Race. That's probably the telling thing there from that replay in the slow motion that we're able to watch of it, that he was already loose before the anti-cut helped really get him out of shape.
Latter lifts out of the throttle onto the brakes. Looks like a bit of an incident ahead. Potentially Chad Vigor. Yeah, just a lock up for Chad Vigor. Nothing worth really going to a replay for, but regardless, we'll keep our eyes on 2 battles here. Scott Gamble closing in on Kenneth Latter, and for 6th place, it's Dan Hall having to face off against Scott McCune. McCune, interestingly, with older tyres than Dan Hall by about 2 laps. He's currently on the 13th lap on those tyres, and we know from talking to drivers that it does take between 10 and 15 laps for the tyres to sort of fall off in terms of pace. So I find it quite interesting that McCune is still able to keep on the back of Dan Hall like he is.
And there she goes, seems to keep it all sailing as needed. Watch that battle continues. Meanwhile, that gap up ahead continuing. Actually, it's closer, but it hasn't closed drastically on that last lap at least, so maybe a bit of stabilisation there for the race lead. Just what the doctor ordered for Ken Latter. But and for these two here, Scotty just continuing to probe here and there a bit, it seems. In fact, he gets a nice bit of run down the start-finish straight, but not even close enough to think about nicking the outer curve. But he finds something here on the exit of turn 1. Yes, he's going to get a very rough run for Dan Hall, but who immediately covers the inside. So it's going to be the long way around up here at turn 3 if the 77 wants to make this work, Race.
Okay, Scott McCune, outside line for the hairpin. It's not the worst place to be. It's nice and flat. You just got to pick up the throttle properly. But Dan Hall is able to get it done. And look who's joining the party here, John Latham. A man who's been slowly creeping up the order ever since his unusually long first pit stop. He could face off against these two. and nab himself a top 6 from what was potentially going to be a pretty bad race by his standards. Let's keep an eye out, because it's only 5 laps to go. Leaders have now made it 4 to go at the front of the field, and the fight is still on. It's within a second now between Ken Latta and Scott Gamble. Slight oversteer there for McCune. He's going to fall off the back of Dan Hall. Will John Latham be able to get it done up the inside of turn 9? He's there. He's there. There's a little bit of overlap. Oh, just giving each other enough room. Latham's going to try again at the final corner, but major oversteer there for John Latham. He'll have to wait for another opportunity to get himself in this fight. What that has done, though, is it's separated Dan Hall and Scott McCune. We won't be seeing any more of that for a couple of corners, at least.
Yeah, probably going to be another mistake from Dan Hall to really give McCune another chance to go at it here. So we'll look at the differences. That's as far half a second, then so about 0.26 there, and then that's 007 perhaps on that. Yeah, so indeed, I can thankfully just make out the text on this one. But that's really important to note that last lap, although hang on, that just jumped from 1.1 to 0.7 of a second all of a sudden there through the infield sector. So that's a disaster for Ken Latta. That's not the kind of thing as Latham has dispatched, well, not quite completed the job, but up the inside of McCune at turn 4, now clear here as they make their run through to 5 and 6 race. So can the 24 of Latham finish up? You've also got more battling further on back. Is that there? That'll be, pardon me, it's Jamie McKnight. We're further on back within 22nd with Fewens, Bobby Griffiths and Troy Stonestreet looking for a piece of all of this as well. And at the front of the field, closing down once more here, Reese. 3 to go. Not even now between our 2 leaders.
Yeah, and have a look at the roundup from Scott Gamble there on the way into the hairpin. He looks so much better under brakes than Latta did. The fight for 6th is still on. We still have Dan Hall trying to keep an eye out in his rearview mirrors for John Latham, who has almost left Scott McCune behind at this point. Lock up, meanwhile, for Scott Gamble there in the lead of the race. That's a little lifeline to Kenneth Latta. There's only going to be 2 laps to go at the line. He needs Gamble to be making those mistakes now as Latham gets up around the outside of Dan Hall at the hairpin. Can he get the power on? Hall's been strong on the inside on exit there, but it seems like Latham has done just enough to get it.
Goes ahead. Car ahead there as we come down to turn 4. That might just be it, but he doesn't protect it, Reese. So the door's open. Dan Hall does not choose to go for it, though. And so that will convert the position for John Latham, as he said, up to P6. Have been trying to recover positions all race long. And finally, it looks like he might have just settled into a pretty happy spot. There's half a second in it between our top 2. Despite that lockup, okay, but it's not much in favour of Scott Campbell on that one there. Is it 2 1,000ths of a second the difference on lap number 45 as we get lap 46 underway here, and we see as Ken Latta left just enough in this car to protect against Scott Gamble, who's looking for another race win this season. It would technically be 6 from 6 at the stripe, 5 out of 6 by the official race results if Gamble can do it here tonight. So Latta definitely looking to get one on the board for himself.
Yeah, for sure. This might be the turning point of Latta's season if he can hold Scott Gamble off for just 1.5 laps longer. Keep an eye out for those telltale puffs of smoke. Keep an eye out for lapped cars ahead. Could be a factor in this battle between the leaders on the last lap. You see cars flashing by in the foreground and background. Darren Goosey in the 186 is the first car that they're going to come up on here. I wouldn't expect he's going to make it too tough for these guys. Goosey is one of the drivers who's had a very tough race. He's down 4 spots. He got ran into when there was a coming together at turn 4 beforehand. It looks like he's just going to jump straight out of the way here down the front straight and let our leaders go. Oh, actually, no, he's not. Seems like he just had a narrow exit. White flag in the air for our leaders.
Well, this is important here. If Goosey doesn't hold up Ken through turn 1, This is very useful to Ken Ladder indeed. Perfect bit of slipstream here as they build speed off of turn 1. That is exactly what Ken Ladder wants to be given there. And now Goosey rolls out as they come up through turn 2. So Scott Gamble's job is made a little bit harder by a neat and tidy exit from Ken Ladder and the slipstream, although he did a tiny bit of smoke maybe there at turn 3, closing the margins slightly as further on back in the field. We're going to bring up the Dan Hall, Scott McCune fight as well, because that is back underway once more. In fact, critically in all of that one there. They have to exchange positions and all of that there. Have they not? Or am I still getting my run out? Just had a brain fade.
Hall was ahead. Hall's been ahead of McCune this whole time, I think.
Excellent brain fade then.
Yeah.
I'll work with that. As leaders, half a lap to go. Hall and McCune, final time into turn 3. Now Scotty trying to really compress there on the brakes as Warwick and Talianster dueling for, is that 12th place there on the tower? It is, but they've got some more time left in this race. For Ken Ladder, though, he's just got 2 turns left. Just needs to get this one pulled up, and it should be done. Doesn't need to do anything flashy, flamboyant, or risky. Scott Gamble will close like a man possessed through the last 2 turns, but it will be Ken Ladder to finally break Scott Gamble's streak here in Season 19 of the RaceKraft Simulations V8 Veterans Championship race. He is your Anzac Day race winner here tonight.
Yep, the Anzac Day 200 goes to Kenneth Latta. Beautiful job. And it's going to be 2 Fishy Motorsports cars on the podium here as Michael Whiting brings it home for 3rd spot. Absolutely fantastic race, this one. Matt Vanderkraan is going to finish in 4th with Chris Miller in 5th place. And how about the recovery from John Latham? Fantastic run up to 6th. Dan Hall just going to hold off Scott McCune here at the line. And, oh, man, if you're McCune, you'd have been wishing the race was 1 lap longer as more battles work themselves out further down the field. Oh, man, really happy with how that race went. Dan, I got to say, this could be the turning point of the season. It's been the Scott Gamble show for a lot of it. Could it now be more than 1 star at the top of the poster?
That's certainly what we all hope for in terms of the championship and then the season-long fighting. Well, we'll get a chance to hear what Ken thinks of that in a couple of minutes' time in the interviews. But Paul Byrne's going to be one of our last cars to make it in a battle across the line. And in behind him would be Matt Scholes, I think. Apologies for me not being able to tell you for certainty here tonight, but they will complete the race in 31st. Sorry, it's Ricky Hyde, 31st and 32nd for those 2 cars there. As that should just about do it here tonight for our race results. And we'll bring them up on screen in just a moment here.
Indeed we shall. Well, Ken Ladder in car 269, his first win of season 19 after starting on pole position. Absolutely nailed the pit cycle versus Scott Gamble, who finishes 2nd, Michael Whiting in 3rd. Vanderkraan and Miller will round out the top 5. Latham, with that massive recovery, to 6th. Dan Hall, Scott McCune, and David Nash will finish 7th, 8th, and 9th. And Rob Crisdale, gaining 23 spots on his way to a top 10 finish, is our Chubby Bunsburgers driver of the day. Fantastic job there from Rob Crisdale. That quick first pit stop set up the whole race from there. Tim Nicol is going to finish in 11th spot with Paul Warwick 10 seconds behind him. No, sorry, that's 1 second behind him. Taliansich, Lewis, Kirby, Hunt, Van Loon, one of the late pitters there. Fuel was tight for him at the end, has to settle for 17th with Cairns, Flavel and Varga rounding out the top 20, Dan.
That they are indeed, and we'll go over the page here in a sec. Christian Smart next across the line in 21st, leading home next to our Fishy Motorsports cars. And Jay McKnight there for 22nd, who actually was more involved in the battle pack there with Jason Fewens in 23rd, Troy Stonestreet 24th, and Matt Scholes in 25th place. We look back then to Chris Blanchard in P26, Brenton O'Brien there in 27th place. Unfortunately for Michael Stewart, not able to recover much from the lap 1 incident. Will end up in 28th place tonight with Mark Poynton. Another victim tonight down in 29th. And Scott McKay going to round out our 30 car, or top 30 at least, in this one with Paul Burns and Ricky Hyde, our last 2 cars there on the lead lap of the race, with Darren Goosey Chad Vigor, Blake Delaney, and Michael Quain, along with Rick Sebra, finishing the race, but a lap down there for that one tonight. Robbie Griffiths, unfortunately, 2 laps down on that one, and it looks like Damien Fisher, that might say plus 48, which would mean a no start for him this evening, unfortunately, there as well, to round out our starters and finishers of this Anzac Day race here tonight. And with that, Reese, we can now turn our attention to the post-race interviews, and I believe I'll leave it to you to chat with our race winner to start off first.
Yeah, indeed I will. We'll bring Kenneth Latter into the commentary booth with us. Congratulations, Ken, on your first win of season 19 of V8 Vets. That was definitely a hard-fought one. It all came down to strategy in the end.
Yeah, it certainly did. Scotty clearly didn't take as heavy a fuel out in the first pit stop, and I filled it right up. And he wasn't able to break away enough in that second stint. Luckily for me, but he certainly put up a good fight at the end there to try and bring it to half a second, that's for sure.
Yeah, it seemed like he was struggling with the rear end there in the last few laps. It was just a consequence of burning through the rear tyres, trying to keep that gap up, or is it just a combination of the setup and the nature of the circuit?
On turn 1, my daughter come in to say goodnight to me. And I turned around and said, I love you, and I split sideways off the corner. I'm like, damn it. So, that probably wouldn't have helped things at all. And at that particular stage, I think he was about 2.2 seconds off me, and then that went from that to about 1.7, 1.5 suddenly in the draft, so which obviously made the job a bit harder. So.
Oh, regardless, it's a win on the board for you, finally, and certainly a fantastic haul of championship points. Gamble, of course, finishing in second, so the points gain is not that much, but regardless, I think you should still be happy with the result you've gained from tonight.
Yeah, well, I got the monkey off the back, which is good. It's been very difficult to find wins this season, even in last season it was. And particularly tonight, I felt like I could have driven a better race. There was just a few mistakes once again with brake lockups, and I had like 22 laps with no incident points, which I think was sort of tightening me up a bit. And then once I got the 1, then I ended up with 7, and then 8, and then suddenly after that I started to relax a bit more and sort of find my feet and not worry so much.
Well, congratulations, Ken Latter. The Anzac Day 200 is yours. Who do you have to thank?
Oh, well, all the guys for all the great liveries they put on for the Anzac Day special. Well done to Scotty, and I'm not even sure he came third, I didn't look. And well done to you guys, for giving up your time today. You always put on a great broadcast and race control. And all the Fishy Boys and West End Motor Group, Infinity Design, DC Shades, Battery Warehouse, Early Beach, Precision Sim Training. Thank you.
Ken Latter there, finally getting the monkey off his back for season 19. Next up, of course, we have Scott Gamble. Should still be the championship leader coming out of this round. Second on the road tonight, Dan.
Yeah, Scott will certainly still be leading the championship. And yeah, unfortunately, it seems to have stemmed tonight from going maybe shorter on the first stop, and they've had to go longer on the second stop, it seemed. Was that the sort of how it felt like from behind the wheel, based on what we were seeing out there as well tonight, Scott?
Yeah, how you going, Dan? Yeah, it was. I mean, it probably comes down to quali. Like, we just didn't get our lap in quali, and it put us in P4, which it was a good position, but that just changed my strategy. I just thought, you know what, we'll go out, we'll take a little bit less than that first stop, because I thought everyone will fill up, and we'll see what pace they've got, and then see if we can break their draft, which we did. Yeah, so it was a hard one, and then the last 3 laps, through no fault of Ken's, he was driving beautifully, but he just kept getting the blue cars and getting the draft on the straights, and I was like, oh my god, how convenient is this, so it made it very difficult, but we closed it up. I mean, we finished 0.4 behind him, so the strategy was there, we just didn't execute it, and it would have been difficult to get past Dan anyway. He was driving really well.
Yeah, certainly some of his best driving we've seen this season, but certainly, no blemish on your own mark. They'll be able to hunt him down and try and make it there. Almost needed maybe one more lap, or as you just said there, just didn't need the lap cars to end up giving an inadvertent advantage to him to maybe help you get the job done tonight.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, at the end of the day, Ken qualified on pole beautifully. Well done. You know, congratulations to him, and drove a stellar race and had his strategy good. And same as his teammate Michael, you know, they made it as difficult as they can, being teammates, you know, being fair, and that's all fair game. So yeah, it was good fun. Congratulations to Ken and Michael, and yeah, enjoyed the race.
Well, our rounds tick down and we head back to America for Sonoma next week for round number 7. Heading though to the longer form, or longer version and layout there, which will see us use a bit of the inside loop of the circuit we don't often see these cars race at. Any thoughts on what that might look like once we get to that one? Also be a short, sharp race as well. So only 37 laps, 150 Ks on the board for that one as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind Sonoma. It's a good track. I'm not sure whether it's the same track where he raced last series. You might be able to tell me if it is or not, but if it is,
not
that's
quite.
a good track. Not quite. Yeah. So
yeah.
I'm not
So
sure,
basically, yeah. So yeah, it's basically you rather than take that short shoot where you do the double right and then start heading back down the hill. Before you get there, you do the right-hand turn to take the infield sort of loop and actually then come down onto the drag strip before you go up to the top of the circuit again and do basically a double hairpin right before you come back down the S's. So it's a little extra part of the circuit there to negotiate, basically, is what you've got lined up this time.
Yeah, sounds like fun. We'll enjoy racing there and do the best we can, as always, you know, and try and push these guys, and I'm sure they'll try and do the same back. And yeah, it's good fun when that happens, you know. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Indeed. Well, and also just want to it's great to see obviously everyone be able to support Anzac Day, our servicemen and women, those who have served, serving, or unfortunately fell in the line of duty. Obviously yourself, and you've also spoken in the past about yourself as a former veteran, and also be able to do your part and show your colours on your car tonight. Any chance, what's it mean to be able to see everyone be able to support the Anzac tradition, the spirit, and everything that we're able to do to commemorate everyone who's been part of the armed forces here and allied countries and around the world, even in general?
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely fantastic to see the V8 vet community get behind our veterans and our Anzacs. And, you know, they took great pride in their paints, and they were talking about it for the last 2 weeks, really. So it was phenomenal effort. It was really good to see it. Lots of good chat about it. You know, some of us, our day started at 5 a.m., you know, where we went down for the morning reveille. And yeah, it's where it all, it's a difficult day, Dan, you know, for veterans. And some people think it's a day of joy, day off, but it's a difficult day when you're a veteran and you reflect back. But, you know, the afternoon, you have a couple of beers and then a few yarns, and yeah, and then it's sort of get your spirits back up. So it's really good to be surrounded by people in the V8 Vets community who are so engaged in that. And yeah, thank you very much. And to yourself over at SimSpeed for being involved in it. Yeah, really appreciate it. And I'm sure all the veterans within the V8 community, V8 community and the V8 Vets appreciate it. So yeah, thanks guys.
It's our pleasure to be able to do our little part to help you guys put the show on and celebrate and remember those who have fought for us here, there, and everywhere around the world, it seems, Scott. But before we let you go, who would you like to thank for helping you get it done tonight in the 543?
Yeah, shout out to the drivers. We mentioned them. You know, it was really great. I'm looking forward to watching the broadcast back. As always, you do a great job over there at SimSpeed and looking at all their cars and liveries, and maybe even look at a bit of the chat and that they've got on the YouTube channel. Maybe there's some of that going on too, so that'll be good. Shout out to 95 Sim Sports. Really appreciate them. They're a great bunch of guys. A couple of new recruits there, so welcome to them. And to our sponsors over at 95, RaceKraft, Turn In Apparel, RSW Graphics, Racing Ears, Prestige Cinematography. Thank you very much for sponsoring, and yeah, we'll try to be here next week if we can.
Well, certainly look forward to seeing what you can do, Scott, and thanks for talking with us once again here tonight.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Reese.
Brilliant stuff there from Scott Gamble, finishing second on the road here. And finally, we're going to go to Michael Whiting, who managed to grab a third spot in the Fishy Motorsports 520. Congratulations, Michael. That has just given you 5th place in the championship. You must be very happy with your performance.
Yeah, last couple of weeks has been really good. Felt a lot more consistent in the car and a lot happier in the setup. My sort of driving style suited the last 2 tracks have been at, so there's a couple of tricky ones coming up later in the season. So it'd be interesting to see how we go there.
Yeah, your second, third place in a row. So you got it at Silverstone as well, which incidentally is also a pretty technical, fast-flowing Formula One sort of smooth style circuit. So do you think that's your main sort of circuit type that you're good at?
Yeah, I think the faster flowing corners is more me. The stop-go stuff, like Sandown and places like that, doesn't really suit my driving style. I really got to change what I'm doing when we go there. So we've got a couple more GP tracks on the calendar this year, or this season, I should say. So it should be good.
Yeah, looks like, looking at the calendar, maybe Sonoma will be difficult for you, but Suzuka and Algarve probably suit you pretty well. So you must be looking forward to closing off the season here. We've got a month's worth of racing to go. And looking at the championship standings, yeah, you're still well within the opportunity here to potentially get a top 4 on Dan Hall, maybe even a top 3 by the end, depending on what happens.
Yeah, look, that'd be awesome. Keep pushing every week. I've got a few other commitments race-wise coming in the upcoming weeks, so there's a case of managing, practice sessions for different leagues and things, but we'll try and get as much time on the track as we can and get as far up the leaderboard as we can for the end of the season.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Michael. Is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, obviously, you guys, Race Control, all the boys back at Fishy, everyone, with Anzac Day today as well. Everyone's thinking of those guys as well. And obviously the main sponsors, West End Motor Group, DC Shades, Battery Warehouse, Early Beach, Infinity Designs, Relax Marine and Game Fishing. Yeah, it's been awesome.
Michael Whiting in the Fishy 520, 3rd place on the road in this round of the V8 Veterans Championship presented by RaceKraft Simulations. The next round is going to be next week on the 2nd of May, 8:30 p.m. Australian Eastern at Sonoma Raceway. I'm looking forward to that one, Dan. I won't be here for it, but Sonoma is always a fantastic V8 track, and this time we're running the NASCAR long layout, which means these guys are going to have a complete switch of philosophy from the Red Bull Ring.
Yeah, I mean, these guys actually ran the NASCAR. Well, it's now called NASCAR Short. Used to be called Cup Historic. Once upon a time, it was also called Cup. Let's just say Sonoma Raceway and its layout names is probably one of the biggest, most confusing conundrums in the world. But yeah, as I was trying to sort of explain to Scott Gamble earlier, rather than, you come up, basically do the opening section of S's, and then rather than going straight down the hill and making the 90-degree right and doing that short shoot across the back, they're going to have to actually pull it up earlier, take the tight right to go infield, and then basically where the rallycross circuit meets up, and then loop back down onto the drag strip here and fire back up the hill, and then rejoin that shoot section and wind down the second set of S's here at Sonoma. But indeed, no straights basically of note, really, apart from the front straight, and you can't really even call it a front straight as well for good measure. So it really is going to come down to how carefully they manage their front tyres under brakes and their rear tyres, well, under brakes if they're running rear bias, but definitely, of course, also don't lean on those tyres too much on the power, of course, as well.
Yep, make sure you join us at 8:30 Australian Eastern next week, next Thursday, for the next round of V8 Veterans. From all of us here at SimSpeed TV, we hope that you've had a safe and reflective Anzac Day. We do appreciate you all tuning in, and to all the drivers just pulling out all the stops to make this Anzac Day tribute round the best that it could possibly be. All the sponsors up here on the screen, big thanks to all of you for helping to put this series on, and of course to the crew at V8 Vets for making all of this happen in the first place. I'm Reese Gardner, Dan Yeaman with me in the comms box, and Jay Kennedy on production. We're SimSpeed TV, and we will see you next time.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.